Frank Zummo, thanks for joining the Heart Dealer podcast. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, man.
No worries. Drummer, Hall of Fame inductee in Canada, which is crazy. That's a separate question. Alternative Press Drummer of the Year 2017. Father, husband, soon to be author. Do you have time for anything?
Uh, Got to make more time for, yeah, lately the plate's been very full. In a great way though. It's like, some ended. So it was like, okay, time to get this book going. Cause on the final tour, wound up signing a book deal with the publisher. So it was like, okay, great. And I have a bunch of drum shows I'm doing. So I was just like, load that up. And then literally thought, it's going to be some time before the next gig. Cause Sum 41 ending really, like, I wasn't done. It inspired me to achieve this level that I've been working my whole life to get, and then to get a taste of it. I was like, I'm just getting started here, and just thought it'd take a minute to find the next gig, and I didn't want to rush into anything if it wasn't right. And then this thing happened with Electric Callboy, and I just got thrown into this whole, whirlwind. So it's been like a big juggling act right now, but I'm like at the finish line, finishing commitments that I had before I knew I was going to do Electric Callboy, getting all that done. And then now I'll be next month going out on the world tour of Electric Callboy. And, my goal from that point onward is like family time, the world tour. And, but right now I'm like in it, I'm like literally finishing the book and the audio book and deadlines and all great problems to have, and it's really incredible, but it's just like, I've definitely had to, I know you talk about mental health and all that. It's been like, okay, like my plate's full, do some serious breath work. Let's get in the ice bath, the sauna, whatever I can do to, I called my doctor, like what's some supplements that could help, with calming and my, all of that support. So it's just been, a work in
Yeah,
progress at this moment for sure.
um, it is a lot of work, and I want to get into Electric Callboy and what you do for mental health and all that stuff. I want to expound on those ideas. But you said something interesting. You said, time. This got to make more time. I'm a big believer that time's our most valuable asset, and we have to use it wisely, right? Like a dollar, you want to save, you want to spend, you want to invest. Uh, how with all the stuff that you have going on, what are some of the tools that you use to manage your schedule, manage your time, especially with family?
Yeah, like obviously that's the two important things. It's like the yin and yang. You have your family, which I've got two young boys and I tour a lot. So it's about staying connected when I'm away. That's been a big thing that we've worked on, especially with the time differences, being in a band that's European and all that. So it's about staying connected. And then when I'm home, having the most important quality family time. And the family knows, hey, if I've got to prepare and practice for a tour, I'm going to do these hours, then it's family time. And I'm
Yeah.
not on my computer, my phone, and my wife will constantly keep me in check with that, which is so great. Um, and then it's like, how do we bring the family out on the road to come have these experiences? I didn't leave America, until I was 21. And I think the furthest, I never even got on a plane until I was out of high school. My family, we drove in a van from New York to Florida to go on vacation. That was about it, So having my kids, they've already got passports. They've been around the world, which is so amazing that they're getting these experiences. And we kind of make it like almost like a learning experience. Like when they came to Rome, we got a tour guide. Let's go to the Colosseum. Let's learn the history, not just
Yeah.
walk around and say, what happened here? We don't know. So like making it learning. So they're just getting all this worldly, you know, experiences. And it's almost like just, stuff that you would learn in textbooks. They're learning like, for real. Um, but yeah, it's about just juggling, prioritizing career and scheduling that out to benefit what needs to get done within those timeframes, and then family. Obviously, when I'm on the road, I'm on the road. So it's like, okay, if I've got to, work on this for this other project or press or whatever it may be, it's a lot easier to schedule. So it's just about like navigating that. And I've just been really good, I think, with just scheduling and time management because I learned that at an early age from my grandfather. He had a theater and I came in as like the stage manager and I was in elementary school and I'm responsible for so much and it all came down on me. So I think learning that at such an early age really instilled how to deal with the schedule, how to, and I think it's just more what I've learned later in life is just about, maximizing the time
Yeah.
with loved ones and family and just being present. And it's a work in progress. Like it's for sure it is. And
I agree.
navigating all that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, much like the rest of life, it is a work in progress. See, the more we live, the more we realize, the less we know, right? There's just so much knowledge and wisdom out there.
Right.
Um, Presence for me has been such a huge part of the time management. And, whether it's family or video games or school or work, whatever you have going on in life, I think that's the key is have that time scheduled, be like fully focused on that. And then when you shift off that to the next block of time, turn that off. So when I'm doing kid time, I'll work longer days. I'm an entrepreneur. I have to hustle. And so because of that, some of the kid time suffers. But whenever my kids are home, whenever it's the evening, it's, like before bedtime, phones
Hmm.
are away, phones are off, everything is dismissed so that I'm fully present with my children and they're getting 100% of my attention. I think that's such an important part of like appreciating the time and using it wisely too.
100%. When I'm home, we always have family dinner together. There's no TV devices around. My wife and I put our boys share a room. We sit with them till they fall asleep. Like we're talking about our day and what,
Mm,
just all of that stuff, which is great. We have very good communication skills with our kids, which we've always had with them. And yeah, it's like let's make it count while dad's home and again just stay connected while dad's on the road, whatever we have to do. FaceTime. I've got them these new like kid watches where they can message me or call me whenever they need to stay connected. And we did some really fun uh projects like while I was in Europe all summer where my oldest son's into 3D printing. So he 3D printed a treasure box. And
cool.
every country I went to, I collected something that he can add to this box. And I'd send him a video. Hey, I got this pine cone that fell off a tree backstage in Switzerland, and like whatever it may be. So he's got this treasure box, and it was a cool way to keep us, connected while I was on the tour. And then like I had an idea because of that. Like there's a component of the book that's a soundtrack. It's an
Mhm.
EP. And I said, "Hey, I want my kids to do the art for the single and the EP to like connect with them and have them included in this." So that was a really amazing project we did together. So, it's just it's as parents, you're always learning, growing. It's just about communicating. It's about doing work on myself to take into the marriage,
Yeah.
the parenting. Um, it's just it's gonna be like that forever, and I'm always down to do the work, and I've got a great partner who keeps me in check, and with all of that stuff, which has been really, really great to have a partner, um, as hard as it is, especially when she's single, parenting when I'm on the road.
Yeah.
Like my family has 2 lives. They have a life with me and a life without me. And it's like it's such a and it's like the when I come home, we're getting back to the full family. When I leave, they have their thing, so it's like it's just this constant kind of song and dance. But I don't know. I love it as hard as it is because we don't take things for granted because we're all not like 9 to 5. We work, we come
Yeah.
home, we do blah blah blah. It's like so we make it count as hard as it is, and hopefully this is on a path that it's not gonna. That's my only fear, and just being open and honest and real, like is that this will impact them that there's, issues down the road and
Right.
whatever it is. So like that's just, it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do is, and I'm sure anybody just being a parent, I used to think
Yeah.
touring and not sleeping and shitty hotel beds or a bumpy tour bus. Now it's like I feel like I'm on fucking vacation when I go on tour. Being a parent is the hardest thing because we're worried about our children for the rest of our life and all of that stuff, which is totally natural and okay. It's just the wild, unstable kind of life of being an artist, and
Yeah.
then having a family.
I mean, I can relate from an entrepreneurial sense. It's a lot of time to yourself. It's a lot of grinding. It's a lot of working with the team. It's a lot of not family. I mean, we're about the same age. I have 3 kids of my own, five together with my partner, and I went through a separation year and a half ago, and that was part of my concern. Was I come from parents that are not divorced. That doesn't mean that they haven't had their issues. They've had plenty of those as well, but that's okay. What relationship doesn't.
Right.
And I was worried about how it might impact the kids, but I think that in bettering myself as a human and bettering myself as a father and being more present with that time, which their mom is doing too, they're getting what they need, which is love, and it doesn't matter whether it's, like, together or the same house or not, as long as that's that, like, unconditional present love, I think they'll be okay, and as long as the people are speaking positively about each other, that's okay. So it was a learning curve for sure, it still is, but I think you can feel it. I think you can see it and feel it with your kids, and if you set them up for success, which it sounds like you're doing with traveling and education, they'll know. They'll know that, mom and dad love me and I've been cared for and I've been given a positive path forward.
Right. That's definitely the goal. And I come from, my parents divorced when I was a senior, so I had a great childhood with both parents present, and it was great. My Both parents were very supportive of, especially me being a drummer, carting my shit around, waiting outside while I was in, band practice, or letting band practice at their house and all the noise and just everything. So, luckily it happened, when I was like, a young adult, that mentally, as hard as it wasn't so traumatic because I grew up with a mom and dad present, but like the thing that resonated with me is I took my oldest son a couple years ago to Denver. I did a big drum workshop. It's the first time he traveled with dad alone and all that stuff. It was really special. And we're at the airport leaving, and TSA, is like, as he's coming through with me, they ask him, the TSA agent asked my son, like, "Who's that?" And he's like, "That's my dad," you know, as they always ask a minor or whatever. So as we're like putting our stuff on the belt, my son looks at me and he goes, "So dad, who would my stepdad be?" And I'm like, "Nobody." Like nobody, because he's so used to that being the conversation with friends and family and stepdads, and we have a big family with my wife's side. And I was just like it hit me hard. I was like, Nobody." And like that was like a reality check to like always work on my marriage, and I don't want it to get to that my sons have to have a stepdad. It's like I never had step parents. My parents never remarried, or anything like that, so I never had to deal with that stuff. So I don't know what it's like, but yeah, that was just like a reality. That was a big punch to the stomach.
Yeah.
TSA having that serious conversation with my kid. And I got like almost, I was like, nobody, I got super like, whatever, like ego in it, no one's raising my kid and being a, whatever. But it was a good reality check, to like work on my marriage constantly, which is, it's work. It's work, and it's communicating, and like
Yeah.
I feel like I'm working harder on it now than I ever have, to be honest.
It's funny, a lot of that work with other people comes from work with the self, which I'm sure we'll talk about today. Just going back to that. So when my ex left, that was she's my second wife, the
Hmm.
second relationship that was falling apart. And no shade to her. We were together for 10 years. It was fantastic. Our kids are incredible. She's an amazing mom. It made me stop and say, okay, what's going on? I'm the common denominator here. What am I doing wrong? And we all have those moments at different times. For you, it was before the relationship ended. For me, it was, after the second one ended. But that learning is what made me start to go deeper inwards and really look at myself and question my past and question the decisions and focus on who I am. And then it led to lots of positives. I mean, it was about 2 months in, my ex and I were talking, and she was like, "Do you notice that like our schedule is so much better?" I was like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "We both have more time for ourselves, for our work, and then when the kids are here, you like miss them, so you're like super present with them." For me, my whole balance shifted towards something much more positive for myself,
Mhm.
like for me mentally, for my kids as a better father, and then me starting to heal a lot of what I had going on, so that I would be a better person for my teams and my future partners.
Right.
So lessons learned, and I want to talk about mental health and how you kind of went down that journey. But let's have some fun. So you're born in Long Island. Is that home still?
No, I moved to California, when I was 25, and, haven't left. And, all my family's still back in New York. My wife is from California and has a big family. They're there, so we all live close,
Mm,
and that's awesome. My kids have their grandparents in the same town on my wife's side, and, we're working harder to visit New York more and have my family come to California more. On my side, my family's very, very small. So yeah, I've always loved California and just the weather, just the for music and career, and it's just I always felt that that was a place. So I went out there at 25 to try it with the intention of never coming back because I had so many friends that would go out there and their record deal would get shelved or whatever, and they'd come back discouraged and get back in the cover scene, which I was a part of, and just be that jaded musician. And I'm
yeah,
like, I can't become that. I don't want to repeat the cycle. So I went out there and haven't left. And it's a great place to raise a family and just where everything is in the industry. And, I constantly I'm inspired by it. I love it. And it's been great.
good for you. I mean, change is the only constant. As I mentioned before we hit record, I was born in Toronto, and I've kind of traveled around a bit thanks to my parents and their lives. And I ended up in Vancouver during the pandemic. My ex and I had this opportunity to move here, and we jumped on it. And I haven't looked back. It's beautiful, and I almost felt like once I got here that my vibration started to like line up with the universe. Like I felt like I was in
Mhm.
the right spot. Once you feel that, you can't unfeel it. But I ask about Long Island because when I finished high school, I went to university in Rhode Island. I was on a partial baseball scholarship to a small school called Roger Williams, and then we started to play ball in that area because I was an international student coming from Europe to the U.S. Even though I was Canadian. Uh, I was there early and then befriended a bunch of different people that were at school early. One of was this guy John, who was a couple years older than me. I think I was 18, he was 21, but he had just finished the whole like Navy SEAL training camp, which was fascinating. That was part of like the start of my journey with mental health and mental discipline. So this
Mhm.
guy basically done the entire Navy SEAL boot camp, and then he had done something to tick off one of his instructors, and I think that he had to do a whole bunch of push-ups, and from what I remember, his pec muscle tore, and they discharged him because apparently if you have an injury, they can't risk something acting up in combat. I could be wrong. This is just what I remember,
Yeah.
but he had, like, all the skills. He eventually went into, Ironman competitions. He was fit as hell, but his family was in Long Island, and I've only been once, but it was so special for me because that was my first ever proper American Thanksgiving. He took me home, and I
Cool.
I had, 4 Thanksgiving dinners in 2 days because it was like he had a huge family. It was lunch,
Yeah.
dinner, but it was also the only time I ever got to see the Twin Towers, which for me was so, it's like this stupid small thing. You saw it from the horizon as you're driving like through Long Island, and I'll never forget having been able to see those. I just wanted to share that Long Island connection.
I love it. It was a great place to grow up. It really was, and I love being a New Yorker and learning about the New York hustle. New York City, one of the greatest cities in the world. I went to drum school in New York City. Just a great place, and I feel like that's why I succeeded in California because I had that New York hustle and that drive that is a bit different than the vibe of California. Um, so yeah, that was really an asset, I feel like. But it's a great, beautiful place to grow up. I mean, it's like the end Montauk and is so beautiful. It's massive, Long Island. It's so big. And just to have New York City, like to go, see shows. I would go to New York and see every show as a kid. Just hop on the train and boom, go see, arena shows, club shows. I was part of the New York hardcore scene, going to see all those great shows at the Wetlands and CBGBs and all these legendary venues that are gone now. And then to get to play that circuit when I started having original bands on my own. And, that was special, like playing CBGBs and stuff, like, it's such a young age. And just knowing like the history of everything that went on there. It was a great place to grow up. And now it's like the second chapter of my life. I love the California vibe, and where you are, that's a special place because that's where Sum 41, that was
Yeah.
our final show at the Junos and our induction to the Hall of Fame. And then I actually did a workshop that I stayed and did a whole thing at Drumeo because they're out of there. And then I went and did a workshop at the one of the places that Sum 41 played one of their first shows when they were touring at. So talk about like a full circle, but beautiful. My wife was with me for the Junos, and like we got to really just, embrace the city, and beautiful place. And I actually, when I was 22, I worked on Holland America Cruise Line, and we went from Vancouver to Alaska and back. That was
That's
my cruise thing. Yeah, when I was 22. So a lot of history there for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's talk nostalgia. Let's talk history because you grew up in New York and Long Island. Obviously, there's a vibrant music scene there, and in New York itself. You talked about how you got into drum school, and then you were working with your grandfather or your uncle at the
Grandfather,
grandfather.
yeah.
So how does little Frankie all of a sudden like develop this passion for music that takes him on this pathway towards where he is now? Like, tell me about the early times.
It started at 5. I started playing drums at 2 because my parents were in a band together. So my mom was on stage singing with me in her belly. So I was just born into it. The drums were in the house. I found my dad's drum kit, which I still have to this day. And then it was at 5 when they took me to my first arena show. It was Ozzy and Motley Crue in '84. And I just knew at that moment, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I've just been on that path since. It just, at 5 years old, it just really, I remember it to this day, what it feels like, what it looked like, everything. And just saying, like, that's Tommy Lee, Tommy Aldridge are up there. They're showmen. I feel this. This is amazing. I'm doing this. And it's been it.
That's amazing. So the tenacity to kind of like make that your career, the passion, is that something you were born with? Is it something you were like learned? Is it a combination?
I think it's just been me. It's just been, I couldn't even reference anything else that I ever wanted to do. It's just been my life pretty much since day one, and I've just been on this same journey to live my dream, and that's kind of like, you know, my workshops that I do with kids. That's like one of the main
Right.
takeaways is like I'm no different than anybody here. I just said this is what I'm going to do, and I'm not stopping till it happens. And I want you guys to hear that coming from my mouth. Like, if you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, and you're that passionate, don't stop until it happens. And
Yeah.
and you can do that. And I'm no difference. It's just like kids, just think because, oh, I see you, I hear you on the radio, I see you on TV and blah blah blah. You're playing these shows in front of thousands of people. Like, I'm never gonna do that. And it's like you can, and that's why I'm here to remind you that you can. I'm no different. Like, I'm not a superhero. I'm a human just like you that had a dream and a vision. So whatever you want to do, just don't fucking stop until it happens. Like,
Yeah.
it's that simple. And I've just been living that my whole life. And now that's why I do these workshop events to share that with these kids, which the workshop events turned into this book. So it's just been like this really cool, evolution, kind of like life story, life journey.
Yeah. I mean, that's such an important point is that um I think was actually speaking with Daniel House. He is also he's in the San Diego area, I think, but was like in heavily in the grunge scene in Seattle. He runs CZ Records. Um, was in that scene in a whole bunch of different bands, and, I remember asking, like, "So, like, he's at the cross section of so much cool stuff that I grew up on, like, what's it like?" He's like, "I don't know, I'm just living my life." And it was such a stupid aha moment for me where I already knew this, but we're all the same. You know, it doesn't matter whether you're at the top of the ladder or the bottom of the ladder, so to speak. We're all the same. We all bleed the same. There's no difference. And really, it's just the choices we make in life that allow us to go from here to there. And you hit the nail on the head. No one's more special or less special. You just have to choose to do whatever it is that you're passionate about and don't let anything
Right.
hold you back, you know, and I think a huge part of that is education and awareness of the world. I do think that, you know, having traveled and seen so much, what you're doing for your kids now is essential. Um, you know, going back to Rhode Island for a second, I'll never forget this guy when I was there, like the first couple weeks. And this is no shade to him or to the US or anything. It was just because you can get this type of mentality anywhere in the world. Where are you from? I'm from the Czech Republic. Oh, so you speak Spanish? And the other one that really got me was, oh, it's beautiful. You should visit. Why would I go anywhere where when everything I need is right here? And the mindset for me was, you know, really closed off because there's nothing wrong with being passionate about where you live and where you're from, and home is always home. Um, but there's a whole world out there, and
Right.
it's such an incredible thing. And I think it's so vital that that exploration, cultural awareness, education to, you know, us succeeding. People who do move along usually are pushing themselves with knowledge and education.
100%. It's it's so great to get out of your comfort zone and just see the world. There's so much to see and so much to learn, and just from the food, I mean, just everything about it can really inspire you and change you in so many ways. I mean, you know, my mom is a homebody. She really doesn't like to travel. She'll do it to come see me and come to California. And when she's in California, she's like so zen, you know, and which is great to see. And then she actually came to Toronto to surprise me for our final show. She didn't even have a passport. She got like a emergency quick passport, came, and it was just really cool to see her get out of her comfort zone to not miss these really important moments. She stood on stage with me at the final Sum 41 show in a sold out arena, you know, like really, really special. We had all our moms there, our kids, our wives, like it was so fucking emotional, you know, it was really special. And then the next day my mom was there with me when we got the key to the city and, you know, that kind of stuff, which was so rad. My kids, um, you know, really, really cool that, you know, the family got to see this stuff and like see like if you put in the whole work, the hard work, you stay
Mhm.
dedicated, all of this could be yours. You know, like I took my kids to see Linkin Park the other night. It's like the new Linkin Park record they found on their own. They don't even know my history with Linkin Park because they weren't born yet or they were babies. They found it on their own through Spotify. It's their favorite record. They wanted me to take them. I took them to the show and we're sitting there at a sold out arena. And I looked at both my boys and I said, this could all be yours if you want it, just do it. If this is what you want to do. And their responses were funny. Like my one son was like, yeah, I don't know. Like he was just a little indecisive about it, which is totally okay. And then my other son was like, I'd be scared, you know? And I'm like, yeah, it is scary to get up in front of this many people and perform. And that's totally natural. And there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that, you know? It was interesting to hear their take, but like, and they're so far into their musical journey. Like they're learning guitar, drums, they're in choir, piano. Like they can pick up a guitar and figure out on their own. They just, from my niece, they figured out how to play Happy Birthday and figured out all the chords and sent her a video of them playing Happy Birthday. If you put a gun in my head right now and said, pick up a guitar and play Happy Birthday, my life would be over. You know, it's like, it's just great to see them like learning. And when kids are young, they're a sponge. They learn shit so
Yeah.
quick. And it's really amazing to watch their musical, which we don't they wanted to take lessons on their own. They wanted these instruments on their own. They wanted a drum set in their playroom on their own. We didn't force anything, just like my dad didn't force anything. I don't care if they want to be, you know, not musicians, just be the best and be passionate about it. Don't do something because you feel like you have to and you're
Yeah.
fucking miserable. And then it affects your mental health and all of that stuff. That's like, as long as you're passionate and this is what you want to do, just do it.
Yeah. I mean, in the doing work, like we said earlier, I really believe that the doing work, a lot of it comes from the doing work on ourselves. You see it on both sides. Oh my God, that person is so successful and look at everything that's happened. And then they fall apart because the success might have lined up for them, but they haven't done the underlying work to be able to manage that or to be stable in that type of environment. Let's
Yeah.
talk about uh, mental health and your journey with that. You were you lucky enough to, I know that you played with Chester, but, like, did you interact with him regularly? What was the
Oh, very, very, very dear friend, like hung a lot, toured together. So we worked together and we hung together. And,
yeah,
he was somebody that I would always share stuff with, email. Back in the AOL Instant Messenger days, we'd like, messaging each other. We're just such a supporter. That whole Linkin Park camp has been so supportive, and they've just been so good to me. To this day, like took my
yeah,
family the other night and they were so sweet to my family and accommodating in so many ways. Um, but I didn't know, I was with him, we played festivals together that summer, and then Linkin Park did a headline show in Amsterdam, and I said, "Hey, we're here. Can we, like, support you?" So we opened for Linkin Park. So last time I saw him, was happy as ever to me, gave me the sweetest big hug, like, had a moment, watched him perform. It was fucking amazing, one of the best frontmen of all time, and then he took his life, and I was just like, "What?" Like, I had no idea. I had no idea. It was really hard, and I went to his memorial, and it was just to watch his wife, kids,
mm,
bandmates. It was just devastating. That I think that's when it was like, "Okay, what do I have to do to never get in a place like I feel like that's my only out?" That was, I think, the most alarming thing, and I've never luckily had, depression or issues like that, but I'm human, like, I, of course, have, hard times and whatnot, so it was just like, okay, the wellness thing really helped with my mental health, starting to do ice baths and saunas and, like, and then that, led to me speaking with a bunch of, sports coaches and then actually a sports therapist. And then one of my coaches is also a therapist. So I felt really comfortable talking with her and, just started learning like when my plate fills up, this is somebody I need to talk to and talk things out and learn. I've learned so many great protocols and things to do, but like breath work has been the biggest thing that I've learned before COVID. I went to a retreat in Hawaii with my dear friends, Laird Hamilton and his wife, Gabby Reese, and learned about breath work, which I breathe, but I
yeah,
didn't know how to use it to decompress, to get amped, to just literally clear my plate, to just use it for all these different things.
yeah,
And it was life changing. And that for COVID, I think got me through COVID. Literally. I taught it to my kids when they're can't go to sleep because they're so wired. We put on breath work and they're out like a light. It's
yeah,
been really, really helpful tool for me to have in kind of my toolkit. Um So, like, these are things and it's a constant, evolution, but, like, I love it, and I love just having conversation about it
yeah.
and making it such a talked about thing now because I think people were ashamed back in the day to
Oh,
talk about it,
absolutely. It was
and it's like
sorry, man, go ahead.
no, and it's like that's why these workshops, that's been the main talking point and not me initiating it. The kids, the parents, the teachers, and it's literally been taking kids out of suicidal places. Kids. And that's why I felt this was my calling to do as many workshops as I can, but then seeing like, okay, it's a big world. I can only do X amount of workshops. I want to have something that like this knowledge and information is like available and resources, which then turned into the book that I'm about to release next month.
Mhm. So, I mean, you said a lot there. There's stuff to unpack. The first and foremost, so was your mental health journey really kind of spurred by Chester's death? Like, or were you already doing stuff beforehand?
I really wasn't. And I literally went through Scott Weiland, who I perform with,
Oh,
passing
yeah.
away, Chris Cornell. who I perform with, Chester, it just started like being like, wait, what, why are they in these places? Wait, this is like a wake up call. And that's really when I started also going on a serious like um wellness journey too, because obviously drumming is the most athletic thing. I always have, ate well and been healthy, but like I'd go to the gym and I didn't know what to do. So I finally started getting trainers to learn how to actually work out, what to do, what supplements, like, and that really affects your mental health in such an amazing way, especially when I'm not touring and I don't get that like release of performing and those endorphins and all that of performing. The kind of working out is my other component of that. It's like
Um,
that's the yin and yang when I'm not touring and staying fit and just feeling good, feeling great after an ice bath and did something that hard. And like, my kids are doing it with me. They're coming in the gym on their own. They're jumping in the freaking ice bath. Like, it's awesome to see. I didn't learn this shit till I was like 40. I started
yeah,
like really working out with a trainer when I turned 30, but then started all this like ice bath and all this other stuff at like 40. So it was just cool to see that like this is the conversation and like this is like what's in my feed now and this is what I'm texting with other musicians about and like getting hit up by other tour managers and band assistants like, hey, what do you do, my drummer's having this problem now, and I'm like, well, this is what I do, and you can kind of just see if that works for you and then go from there. So it's like
yeah,
cool to be like in this like health wellness kind of place and to be having these conversations because it's that's what I tell kids. That's what being a rock star to me about. It's not about like what you think, what you saw back in the day of just this debauchery and toxic, unhealthy shit. It's like that's being a rock star, showing up, being healthy, putting on the best show for the audience, like all of this stuff. And I think it's like the light kind of goes on with the kids. And like I wish I had somebody telling me this stuff when I was young. When I went to workshops, they weren't workshops, they were drum clinics where it was just a every note being played, every note being talked about, and here's a signature piece.
yeah,
Mine are anti-clinics. It's about everything we're talking about right here.
yeah. You said something. I just had this idea. I don't know if someone's already said this before, but I'm just going to drop it, and hopefully it spurs some thoughts. Isn't it funny how Rockstar has the word rock in it, and in order to shine bright, you have to be solid?
Wow, that's very profound right there. That's it's
I mean,
amazing.
well, you're saying it, you're living it, right? Like, we have to take care of ourselves. We have to have those strong roots, the rock solid base in order to be able to ascend to higher versions of ourself, to be able to do the good stuff. And only when you take care of yourself can you do that. I have this habit of like, carrying the world on my shoulders. I want to help everyone, but I never help myself. So I would burn out, my tank would be empty, and then I'd get angry or emotional or whatever. And it wasn't until I started to do more and more therapy after, over the last few years that I realized like, oh, I need to fill my cup. I need to do the work on me in order to be able to help other people. So it does come with that base. And man, it's like a forever learning process, but it keeps going.
100%. It's a never-ending journey, and I highly recommend therapy. Times have changed now. You're not laying on a couch with a shrink. It's not like that. Like to hear that there's better help. On all my favorite podcasts, it's so great that they're all like sponsored by BetterHelp, where you
Mhm.
can just get on your computer wherever you are, and if you don't like that person, you're not vibing, they'll get you another person. Like, and it's affordable, it's accessible. You can work on yourself, and I highly, highly recommend it. And I was always one of those like, fuck that, I'm not sitting on a couch with a shrink. Like, my wife started doing that when she was pregnant because it was like part of her insurance stuff, and I was just like, I'm not comfortable with this. And I finally found somebody that I'm comfortable with, and it's completely opened my world in the best way. And I can't recommend it enough. Like, even if you're just like, I'm cool, like I feel good, I don't really have any,
Yeah,
issues that whatever, it's still good to just check in and, unpack some stuff. And you know what? You can never like Michael Jordan, watching his documentary when they were like, "You're the fucking GOAT. You don't need to practice. You don't need whatever." He's like, "What are you talking about? You can never stop learning. You can never stop practicing, growing. I'm taking drum lessons still."
yeah.
I'm constantly I'm going to therapy. I'm working on myself. But it's only going to make me a better bandmate, a better husband, a better father, so forth and so on. It's really really important.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've referenced this before, but this man, Mr. Shakur, even a genius asks questions. It's so important to constantly be inquisitive and constantly learn. Because, like I said, the more we learn, the more we live, the more we age, the more we do fatherhood, whatever, the more we realize there's so much wisdom out there that we don't know. We just
Right.
have to keep going. Um, you talked about, mental health and not mental health, but time, like breath work. Uh, I had my first aha moment with meditation and breath work when I was, I think, mid 20s, late 20s. So I was born with tetralogy of the Fallot. It's a congenital heart defect, which I was very fortunate to have amazing surgeons, and I've, lived a totally normal life and I'm healthy.
Mhm.
Um, but I remember going in for like an MRI for the first time, and it was like an hour and a half long MRI. I had never done one of these things before. I was pretty big. I was 230. I'm six and a half, 6'1". So I'm in this machine, and you're just like, it's super claustrophobic. It's right there. It's loud. And I remember listening to my grandmother. She said, just focus on your breathing. Close your eyes and literally breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, and put your hands on your stomach and just breathe. I had never done anything before, but I remember the lady saying, okay, we're all done. And I was coming out and I was like, I thought we were supposed to be in here for an hour and a half. And she's like, oh yeah, we actually had to go longer. But it felt like 15 minutes. And I realized that was that moment where I was like, oh my God. It was just the breathing. I controlled this entire thing, and I kinda warped time, and I wasn't panicked or anything, and it's such an essential part of, how I handle things now. I mean, even my kids are 5 and 7. Well, all of them. There's a
Mhm.
range of them, but my kids are 5
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
7. Yoga breaths. Come on, calm down. What do we know? Hand on the stomach, breathe into your hand, yoga breaths, close your eyes. It works all the time.
Yeah, and that's the only time where I can actually not get the thoughts out of my head, especially at bedtime, because I'll lay there and you're sitting there like thinking about the day and what do I have to do tomorrow when I wake up, and like because of the breath work, you're focusing and counting with the breath. My mind doesn't alter. It's focused on that, and then I'm out. It's so great because that's basically my meditation because I'm so focused. I think sometimes in some of the breath work, I'm thinking about a color for the day, and like it's a balloon in that color that's going up, and then I'm blowing that color out. And it's like I focus on that. So I'm not sitting there with all these, you know, just the race of thoughts that are, kind of going through my head. It's like a great way to like, that's my meditation. Cause back in the day, I would try to meditate and it would stress me out because I'm like, I can't get the thoughts out of my head.
Mhm.
Now doing the breath work thing is really check that box.
Yeah. I mean, you said you do a lot of other stuff, which is really cool, gym, eating, ice baths, meditation, breath work, all these things. There's a whole toolbox of different things that people can do to help themselves. And not
Right.
everyone does one thing, or not everyone does all of the things. You have to find the thing that works for you. When I was in university, I smoked way too much weed. And it just got to the point where I remember being in my early 20s, and I can't remember why, but I just developed this fear of contamination. It was probably from like too much stupid TV show, and too much weed.
Hmm.
And it got to the point where I wasn't eating anything except for the stuff in the vending machine in my dorm room, like chips and pop and bad food. And I would take this back to my room, and then I would like wipe down the containers and make sure that no one had opened the containers. And then I would like, if I went to the bathroom, for example, I would go to the bathroom, wash my hands, come back home, like pure all my hands, sanitize the door with spray. Like it was just obsessive. It was ridiculous. And why it happened, how it happened, it's not a concern for me. All that matters is that like I went through it and I handled it. I got a hold of it. My girlfriend at the time was like, "You need to talk to someone." And it was the simplest thing that started to help. And she, because I was scared of getting food poisoning and salmonella and trichinosis and E. coli and everything, and it wasn't logical. Um, And this psychologist, psychiatrist, whichever it was, uh, said, you just have to think of things in baby steps. And I said, what do you mean? He said, every time you take a step forward, even if it's one step, you're one step closer towards your goal. And then that thing behind you becomes one step further away. And then you get to a point in the journey where you hit the midway point and it's, easier to just, like, if you're in the middle of a lake, it doesn't matter which side of the lake you swim to because it's the same distance. So you might as well
Yeah.
swim to the other side. But it was just this simple concept of one step at a time. And every time you take that step, it becomes that one step less scary because you've gone one step further. And that for me turned into this challenge where I was like, okay, I'm not going to do steps. I want to do like big jumps. I want to run this race. And it was a huge part of my transformation. That and this other book, because I think everything kind of came back to depression, which makes sense. You're smoking weed all the time, you're playing video games, you're eating crap food, like you're not putting
Totally.
anything in your body that's going to make you happy. But I read this book called The Mood Cure. Again, shout out to this girlfriend, she got it for me. And this female doctor had written this book, and she said like she would see people and she would prescribe supplements and then do simple things like, what are you eating? You're smoking, you're drinking, you're not sleeping, like you have to stop all that, and then just give them supplements.
Hmm.
And so you do a quiz at the beginning of the book and you flip through a bunch of pages, to figure out which chapter you're supposed to read based on the quizzes. And I ended up taking this supplement called 5-HTP, which apparently is something that you naturally get from like I think it was turkey, like certain types of
Yeah.
protein. Um, and it helps to absorb the happiness in the brain. It's been a long time since I read this book, but whatever the amino acid was, or whatever it
Got it.
was that I wasn't absorbing, as soon as I started to take this, it was like instant change where I was like,
Wow.
oh, I feel good. What is this feeling of happiness that all of a sudden is back? And then you cycle that for a few weeks, whatever it is, and all of a sudden your whole psyche is different. I guess this long diatribe is to simply say there is no right or wrong. You just have to do stuff and eventually something will click and you will feel better.
Exactly. Totally. Yeah.
So you've got this book. This book is a very unique take on a memoir because it is about you, but you're specifically doing it because you want to help people on the mental health side, and you want to be able to help people on a more grandiose scale than
Mhm.
being limited by the workshops you're doing. Is that accurate?
100%. Just to have this, just because, like I said, people have, it's just been saving lives, and the conversation we've been having has just been so incredible that I just felt like I want this to be accessible for anybody in the world to get at any time. The audiobook, the physical copy. Um, and also, what was really special is I got all the people who have had key, just such important parts of my life to be interviewed for this book, from every side, from my family to the, Tommy Lee, who is my idol, who then I filled in for and has become a dear friend, just like talking about how it was for him when I had to fill in for him. Um, you know, then this president of School of Rock is in the book. Artists that I've collaborated with, for messages that we've put through my drums for change and positivity and all this great stuff. So everybody's in there, and then like the wellness side, I've got Laird Hamilton and his wife, Gabby Reese, because they changed my life, bringing me into their just whole world of health and wellness, and
Mhm.
the people they've introduced me to, their whole tribe. So to have them, interviewed. And then we got, for the forward, we got Danny Harrison, who's George Harrison from the Beatles' son, who I've collaborated with a lot. He's a dear friend. He married my wife and I, so it only felt fitting to have him kick off the book in such an incredible way. So there's a lot packed in there, but it's not like a 400 or 500 page book. It's probably going to be like, 200 max. It's really a great weekend read. And just all of the obstacles I went through, how did I deal with them when most people would say, this is when you quit, this is when you turn around? It's like, no, how do we persevere? How do we learn from this? How do we grow from this? How do we stay on the path? Just including all of that stuff. Then resources for the books that have inspired me, the supplements, the wellness, companies, the mental health companies, the suicide prevention hotlines. I mean, all of that stuff is in here, which is just great to have this resource be out there. It's something that has been such a vision board thing for me for so long that I can't believe it's actually happening. And like, just for personal reasons, what I love about it, what's really meaningful to me on a personal note is like to have this for my kids to read when they can understand one day and then share with their kids.
Yeah.
And hopefully it inspires them to be like, holy shit, like my dad was so dedicated. Look at the work he did and the people that were in his life that he got to collaborate with and learn from. And, I just, I hope that, for personal reasons, that's something special for me to, have out there for my kids.
Yeah.
Um, you know, but yeah, it's been such a special thing to kind of go through your life and see it in a book, and now it's like I'm speaking it in recording the audiobook and it's wild. It's really wild. Um, but yeah, it comes out November 11th and I'm going to be doing a bunch of great workshop events around that book, getting to perform with the School of Rock All-Star Band at the New York Giants stadium for a
Cool.
pre-concert event, which was a big goal, that actually just came true, which is so amazing to get these kids to go play in a stadium,
Mhm.
with me. And it's gonna be really special. I'm doing more, it's like workshops that I do. It's not me at Barnes and Nobles doing a book signing. Like that's just not my brand. It doesn't make sense for this. Just doing these great workshop events to just keep it going and spread the word about the book. And it's really cool that the finish line is like so close. It's really, really, really cool.
The finish line comes, and then all of a sudden there's another starting line, you know? The race sometimes the races overlap. Good for you for doing this, you know, I'm a big believer that creation is the most important part of our lives, like, to create, it's so rewarding, it's the purpose we have. To be able to create and then create something that helps is
Right.
even more, spectacular because the feeling you get from helping people is wild, you know, and if I could come back full circle to that Navy SEAL that I met, he really instilled in me this idea of mindset. I'm an Aries, I'm already stubborn as it is,
Mm.
but just learning that it's as simple as the mind, that to understand the mind, to control the mind, that's how you keep going. That's how you push forward. Uh, it was so vital to, you know, you just talked about keeping going. It could always be worse, as my mama says, you know, like, "Oh my god, I lost my arm." Well, you have another arm. "Oh my god, I've lost both arms." Well, you still have your leg. I'm not saying it's not good
Yeah.
or it isn't bad, sorry, but it's how you view things and how you choose to keep going.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny. We have something similar like what you're just saying, like as just some kind of analogy in the book about that. It's funny. Um, Anything's possible. It really is. And I think that's just the takeaway. Anything's possible if you're fully dedicated and authentic about it, because that's just the way,
Yeah.
people could easily see when things are not authentic. And it's just something like I don't want to be one of those just hot minute, because something happened on virally or whatever. Like I that's not my vibe, so and there's nothing wrong with however you get to your path, but like mine's about doing the work, putting in the hours, going through all the different highs and lows, like, now with social media, it's a highlights reel of great stuff because no one wants to put, I mean, people are getting a little bit more real, I feel like, which is good. But like, I didn't just go to California and fucking make it,
Yeah.
just to get there was a journey and a half driving there and what
Yeah.
happened to me and what I had to do to just even get there because it just fell apart really quickly. And then getting there and what was supposed to happen didn't happen. And holy shit, what do I do? I'm so far from home and I have real rent to pay now and all these things that went through it. And it was never like, all right, let's just go home. Mom, can you send me a plane ticket and I'm coming home? There was none of that. Like that was never an option. So it's part of just the journey and maybe who I am today and why I appreciate what I have now even more than ever because I didn't come from anything. I built this all on my own. I came from a hardworking class family. We had our little house and I had my drum room in the basement because you had basements in New York. And that's where like that was my happy place. I didn't need anything else. I didn't need to do anything else. It was just like
Yeah.
be down in that basement, put in the hours and work on my craft and just have that self-discovery as an artist before I was told this is how you hit the drums and this is how to read, this is what to do. Like I had all that self-discovery. My dad didn't teach me a thing.
Mhm.
Never, he just said, here's my record collection, here's big speakers, here's headphones, here's my drums. And that was it. I just had this rad self-discovery for years until I like actually learned rudiments and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Self-discovery is a perfect word, and, like, I think we can cap things off here is
Mhm.
I'm really happy to hear from your perspective that that this is not taboo, that people within your industry, that the musicians, the stars, that a lot of these listeners, like, aspire to, that they're having these conversations, that mental health is not taboo. It used to be there's a stigma
Right.
associated with it that you like you said, it's on the chair and you're lying down and looking up. That's not it at all. It's just having a conversation, and it starts with self-discovery. The more you talk to yourself, the more you see what's there, the more you can start to heal these things. And when you do, you realize that you you're doing exactly what everyone else is. No one is suffering in silence. We're only suffering in silence because we're not talking to people and having discussions like this about things that are just part of the human experience.
It's a conversation like this, like a podcast. But like you get wellness out of it. Like, holy shit, you know, put your ego aside, like embrace the fear of it and the results. Like, I don't know anyone that's said to me, like in my world of friends, family, they're like, oh, I did therapy. It was bullshit. I'm never doing that again. Everyone was just like, it's the most amazing thing. Holy shit. Like, yes, it's great. So I'm a big advocate for it. And at the end of the day, we're just trying, it's a work, life is a work in progress. I think we all are on the quest to be better humans.
Yeah.
So if this is one of the things that can help us, like, let's go, you know?
Yeah. Don't be scared about mental health. Don't be scared about
Um,
doing the work. It's funny. I like to use the analogy of a massage. I don't know if you've had a massage, but when you have a knot, I mean, I played a lot of sports growing up, and when you have a big knot in your muscle, it hurts. And then every once in a while, you'll get a massage and they'll work on that area, they'll work on the knot, and the knot releases and you can feel it release. That for me is the mental equivalent or the physical equivalent, sorry, of therapy. When you're talking to someone and you'll spend an hour and then all of a sudden one thing will resonate and you'll be like, oh, release, healing,
100%.
growth.
And don't be ashamed. There's nothing
Yeah.
to be ashamed about. No judgment, no shame in those spaces. And yeah, I mean, a sports therapist, masseuse is my best friend because of just what I do to my body. And yeah, I know what you're talking about. And like going back to like breath work, did a grounding thing with my wife. When I got home from Europe, we just sat on the floor. We did a guided grounding breath work, and then we just sat and looked at each other and had a conversation to just catch up. And when we were doing that, I wasn't even moving, and my neck fucking cracked. There was like a crack of just like that release from
Mm.
just like having a grounding, because normally I'll get home and it's like a tornado with my wife. What happened? What is this? And then we're just in this like rat race at home with the kids to sports and school and this and that we're making a constant effort to like connect with each other so we don't turn into roommates. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, we don't have a marriage anymore because, so we're like really working on that and
Mm.
recognizing that right now, which I love that my wife really was an advocate of that. But again, sitting there doing breath work, my neck cracked on its own with just like that release. It's pretty amazing.
That is, thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you for being real and sharing so much. Like, keep doing what you're doing because you're impacting people the world over, and it's a beautiful thing. I really try to always find the positive in everything, and it's I'm kind of welling up a little bit because it was, I think, impactful for a lot of people. But with Chester and a lot of these people passed, it was shocking. It was horrific. But there's a part of me that says, let's look at the positive, and if that's one of the things that led you to then start to help other people, then there is a blessing in that. There is a positive. So keep sharing, keep doing what you're doing, and I can't wait to see you on the road and catch a show.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. Thanks for having me, and look forward to seeing this episode out. And just thanks for the support in this journey. All this stuff is really cool to see people connect with it and want to have me on to talk about it. It's something I'll never take for granted.